Let's talk about doing soldered connections. So we're going to do them two different ways. First one's going to be the Western Union. Second one's going to be the birdcage method. Before we get to soldering, tools I'm going to use today, just a Milwaukee M12 tool. This thing heats up very quickly. It's got a small battery on it today, only 1.5. If I have to get another one, I will. But this is what we have in our toolboxes in our classes here, and they've worked very well for us. This is our lead solder and our lead-free solder. So both of them have tin. This just has a higher tin ratio in it. This lead-free stuff, it melts at a higher temperature and it is a little bit more brittle. So that's something to keep in mind. Lead is softer, has a lower temp melting point, so it's a little easier to work with, but it has the health concerns of handling lead. And as we all learned from the Stanley issue, everybody's concerned about that. So make your choice about what solder you want to use, but otherwise, let's get at it. I'm going to turn the soldering iron on. It gets hot in about 20 seconds. I was never a fan of electric soldering irons. I used to only use gas ones before because they got hotter faster, but this one does a great job. So for doing our Western Union, we want to take off about 3/4 of an inch or a thumb width of our wire insulation, 16 gauge wire, so we'll pull that off. And we'll do it to the other side as well. There we go. That one was a little shorter. It's nice to have a little bit more wire when you're doing the Western Union. It rolls over better, easier to make it smooth. All right, so when we're doing the Western Union, we're simply going to layer this wire over top. We're going to start at the midpoint of the bare wire, and that way you get enough room to twist onto both sides. Remember, the goal of our soldered connection is to be electrically sound and mechanically strong while not being too brittle or bulky. So we're hoping to keep this connection as close to manufacturer's thickness as possible. And then I am going to choose to use the leaded solder. And the way I do this for working with these soldering irons, I get a little bit on the tip there. I like the little flat blade. And then I can put the wire right in that pool of solder. That works to conduct the heat very quickly. And then all I have to do is lightly tap this a few times. I don't want to go too far because I don't want to wick the solder all the way up the wire. So I don't want to cook the wires too much. It's about getting a lot of heat in quickly, getting your solder in there so that it's complete. It's got an electrically sound and mechanically strong connection. But you'll notice that I still have it quite flexible at the edge of the union, and that's what I'm looking for. So now that would be good to get heat shrink. Remember, you're heat shrinking about 3 times wider than your soldered connection. On the other side, we'll make a ring out of this. I'm going to do the method I prefer, which is, I don't know what I call affectionately the birdcage method. So strip from the 16, I can do this one with a little bit less, so I only need about 1/2 inch of stripped wire. And then what I do is I pinch the wires and I twist them in my finger and my thumb, and we'll see that they cage up a little bit. The wires expand, and then we can stab the two together. And then we twist the one side, we twist the other. That's my favorite. It's a smaller soldered connection. It looks neater. It fits nicer into heat shrink. And it solders up really well, holds really nicely. So if we fold this over, again, don't have a lot of extra insulation or extra solder in there. So low resistance, tough connection. So we have the birdcage method. You decide, I guess, which one you like better. This is my favorite. And you have the Western Union on this side. And maybe my Western Union doesn't look as good because I just don't like it as much. But both of them will work. Both of them are mechanically strong and electrically sound.